You're listening to the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. Be sure to follow her on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can find out more about Dr. Michelle at drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com. Here now is your host, Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dad Whisperer podcast. We are going to hit the ground running with practical action steps for you as dads of daughters. And I love how so many of you have said that these things are also practical, not only for your sons as well, but they work with any woman in your life. And as you know, every one of you either was married or is married to a woman who's a daughter. So these things also are effective in how you relate to your wives or your ex-wives even. Okay, come on. For those of you that are divorced, you probably need some of this even more, don't you? When that's been the history. Well, like you know, every week I start with a grid that helps you to have a consistent template of how to put in these different ideas week after week that change. But the one thing that doesn't change is the grid, which is on your mark, get set, go. Dad, picture yourself standing side by side with other amazing, courageous dads. Even if you don't know each other, I'm calling you all as champions to stand together, running your fathering race this week. I'm on the sidelines as your coach, cheering you on and saying, on your mark, get set, go. On your mark is the topic or the theme each week that we cover. Get set is filling that in with stories and stats, and go is always your practical action step to put your love for your daughter, even your son, into action this week. Well, today, the theme for On Your Mark is Dadvice, steps to recovering from daughter wounds. So many dads that I have mentored over the last 12 years have often come in saying, I've got an estranged relationship with my daughter. I'm doing the ABBA project and I don't have a solid bridge between us. Many times it's been divorce, and maybe there's a situation where mom has now turned the kids away from a dad. Oh my goodness. I've heard that story more times than I can tell. And I know that sometimes dads have made mistakes and that's justified. And other times it's more personal stuff between mom and dad that the kids get caught in between. And it's all of the above, right? So it's really important for you all to hear me say that regardless of what the history is here in the bombed out bridge with your daughter, today I want to talk to you. I'm calling this Dadvice. I'm giving you advice for dads on how you can recover from wounds that you have that your daughter has caused to your heart. Because I know how easy it is for any of us when we're hurt to just put the wall up and say, okay, you're out. I don't want to have anything to do with you because you keep hurting me. And Dad, really at the end of the day, and God says this in the Bible, is that you have to turn your heart toward your child. It's first on you. It begins with you. And even if there's distance, turning your heart and opening your heart toward your daughter, I believe she will feel it. And in the end, will come back. We don't know how long that will be, but we're trusting that that open-hearted stance where you're turned toward her, even though she's hurt you, that if you have some tools in your toolbox of how you can heal from those wounds, not ignore them, not push them to the side, that you can actually heal and move forward in your relationship with her, even if there's distance. How's that sound? Does that sound like a good pathway for today? So again, on your mark, Dadvice, steps for recovering from daughter wounds. Okay, get set. Now let's get the conversation going. So like I said, I have been talking about father wounds. Really, that's the theme here today. We're talking about daughter wounds. And because I've been talking about, for years, father wounds, right? I even have spoken at women's conferences on this topic, father voids or father wounds, but I've actually never talked to fathers about daughter wounds. And when I have started lately opening up this theme, I've had more men writing me emails going, even as they read my Dad Daughter Friday blog, yep, that's where I'm at. This was really helpful. So I trust that it will be for you too, which is what motivated me to spend an entire podcast today on this theme. Because at the end of the day, even though you know I'm a counselor, right? This is what I do for a living. you may not be wired either financially or maybe relationally or emotionally to want to go to a therapist. But maybe this can be like a mini therapy session where you're gaining tools that you would if you came and saw me as a client. Okay. So here's what I want to say as we start this conversation about daughter wounds is that I received a letter from Tom. Now, this is Tom who gave me permission to give his name. I'm just giving you his first name. But I want to start by letting you hear what he wrote me and see if you can relate to any of this as if you were the one to have written me this. But he said, I was curious if you've ever covered the topic of how dads can get over hurts from their daughter. I recently had my first experience with it from my oldest daughter, who's only 8 years old. Oh my goodness. And realized I better get ready for more. I've heard that the teenage years can be really difficult because that's when my girls will be discovering a wide range of emotional confusion and can say things they don't really mean, but leave a mark. Listen to this sentence. It's really powerful. He said, I'm slowly recovering from my first encounter with it and was just wondering if you had any teachings on how a dad can recover. I want to, quote, get back in the game, end quote, with her, and I want to keep cheering her on, but admit that I'm hurting and finding myself not really feeling it, he put in quotes right now. I know I need to step back and get healed so I can get back out there to love and support her. I just really don't know how to do it. My tendency, like many dads, is just to say, if that's the way you feel, I'll back off. I know I'm not supposed to do that, he said, and I don't want to do that. But I also know that I can't ignore the hurt either. If you have a podcast or something on the topic, I'd appreciate it. Hence the reason for my addressing this topic today of daughter wounds. So let me just first say, there's no quick fixes or pat answers here. I know I'm not hearing your personal story, and you may listen to this going, okay, Dr. Michelle is giving me way too blanket of a statement or a path, and she doesn't know my situation. You're right. I acknowledge that here at the start. There's always complex variables that come into play when two individuals are at odds. I know that. But I trust that I can give you a few principles that will guide you today to help heal daughter wounds between you and your daughter. Because if you, like Tom, want to be a dad who keeps loving and leading by example through the messiness of the hurt, the rejection, the disrespect, I mean, that's a big one, right, dads? And the reactivity, again, it starts with you. So the way you work through daughter wounds is modeling to your daughter how she can work through wounds from you. Does that make sense? So I've developed a 4-step process that will help you get support for yourself, for any other dads you know, for your heart. So that maybe sounds like a funny way to say it, is how do you get support for yourself? Well, this is how, because it means you're doing your own work. That's how you come alongside yourself, if you will, and say, I'm going to coach myself through the wound, because we are all talking to ourselves, 24/7. In fact, I've heard statistics, numbers tend to fall out of my brain, but it is like in the millions of thoughts that we have a day that go through our minds. So when you support yourself through this is the Dadvice I'm giving you, is dad, you don't have to stay stuck in the woundedness, because many dads, mine included, did not have a family of origin where it was modeled that you could talk out hurt, that you could admit hurt, that you could feel hurt. It was all about ignoring it. I mean, maybe you even heard the old adage that I have totally heard misquoted from scripture that says, forget the past, forget what lies behind and lean forward to what lies ahead. Okay, don't even get me started there, because really, I believe that is taken out of context in Philippians, because Paul was listing what he had done, his accolades, and said, I'm not getting my identity out of those things in the past. I am moving forward. He didn't say I'm ignoring it, or he wouldn't have listed it. Okay, do I make my point clear? This isn't about forgetting hurts, dads. You have to sit with the hurt and acknowledge them within yourself in order to heal and move forward. So here's this 4-step model I want to give you of how you can begin to recover from daughter wounds. And it's simply HEAL, heal. How do you heal from a daughter wound and recover, as Tom wrote in his email to me, his message, which I loved that word, because always when we get gut punched, there's a recovery time. I mean, hello. My husband had football on last night. He loves Kansas City Chiefs. He's watching these guys get, plummeted. They're plundered. Like they're going down. Like there are gut punches. A lot of times these guys have to recover. They're laying on the field for a minute before they don't just always pop up. Sometimes they do. But the bigger the blow, the longer they lay there. Do I hear an amen? Am I right? So if your daughter has delivered a big blow to your gut and hit you beneath the belt, it's going to take you longer to recover. But you don't have to stay stuck in the hurt. So let's start with the H. Honestly face the hurt that your daughter has given you. So this is a big one, Dad. This is the starting point. You can't heal if you don't acknowledge the hurt. And I think sometimes in Christian circles, we talk about forgiveness. You just need to forgive. But it's coupled with forget. In fact, many years ago, I flew to Minnesota and met with my grandfather's brother. He was in his late 80s at the time. And, I'm going to just be vulnerable here for a minute. I hadn't planned to share this, but here goes. I wanted to meet with him because my grandfather died when I was 8 years old. It's funny, I was just talking about Tom's daughter being 8. And I'm now, in my 40s. And I wanted to ask my uncle, my great uncle, did you ever hear any more of the story about your brother molesting me, others in my family, my sisters, some of my sisters, even his kids? Like that was his thing. Like this isn't a lie. There's way too many of us coming up with the story for it to have been a lie. And he said, no, he never talked to, I didn't know more. And then he just said, can I give you a piece of advice, Michelle? It's that you need to forgive and forget. And I looked at him and said, I have forgiven, but I won't forget because I don't want to forget, because I have forgiven, as I said. And it's that understanding of my story that I've, what you don't feel can't heal. I have felt this. I have looked at it. I have honestly faced the hurt. That's the H here, that my grandfather has caused on my life. It has wreaked havoc. There's been devastation in my life because of that sexual molestation. But I haven't forgotten, because that's what gives me compassion. And I would say a skill set for the work I do as a counselor. And he didn't know what to say to that. But as we were ending that day and I was saying goodbye, he goes, can I give you last one piece of advice, Michelle? You just need to forgive and forget. And I was so sick of it. He'd said it like 3 times. I looked at him and said, can I just ask you, do I not seem like I've forgiven? Because you keep saying that. And he looked at me and said, well, you do seem awfully happy. That was the last thing I ever said to him. He's in heaven now. But I look at that, Dad, and say, how many men just look at their daughters? Or you look at yourself and just say, forget it, forget it, forget it. Don't face it, just forget it. Dad, hear me saying it doesn't work. It doesn't work with a physical injury. It doesn't work with an emotional injury. You have to honestly face the hurt. So you don't have to act like the tough guy who never gets hurt. It's not weakness to face the hurt. But as we both know, when the hurt builds up, it begins to take on a life of its own. And for a lot of men, women too, I can go there as well. It can come out the anger funnel. So we go to mad instead of sad. So the starting point, Dad, when you're triggered by your daughter, is to be brutally honest with yourself by acknowledging that she's hurt you with her lack of respect or her surly attitude or her disobedience or her rebellion. But then that's what's going to help you move through the anger and get to the sad. In fact, I shared this on another podcast, but I recently talked with a dad a couple months ago who just had found out that his daughter was raped her first semester in college. And he was so angry talking to me. He goes, her irresponsible behavior got her into that mess. And it was anger, anger, anger. And I just looked at him finally and said, she's got to hear your hurt. She's got to see your sadness under the madness. Because if she doesn't hear that this has broken your heart, she will go farther away from you to where those kind of dudes and duds are going to be telling her what she needs to hear. So Dad, you've got to face your own hurt to soften and then come back to her. Does that make sense, men? why I'm encouraging you here at the start to go to the sad, to go to the hurt. If you have to tell another dad, tell a counselor, tell a pastor, write it in your journal, whatever. But here's your action step. I'm going to give you one at each one of these HEAL, is to write down the things that she did that hurt you. You may even want to speak it into your phone if you're not a writer, but get it out so that you are telling the story without holding it in. Okay, dads, I know we're running fast and hard on this topic. I'm going to take a quick break. You can catch your breath, and then I'm going to come back with I gave you the H, then it's going to be EAL, and we'll hit this out of the ballpark so you will know what to do to help recover from daughter wounds. We'll be right back.
Are you a dad who has ever desired a deeper connection with your daughter, but haven't known how to go about it? Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters is the very resource you need. Dr. Michelle wrote it with you dads in mind. This book will support you with scripted questions, equip you to decode your daughter, and inspire you with stories of other dads and daughters. Don't wait any longer to be the hero you want to be and that your daughter needs you to be. So, to let the talking begin, head on over to drmichellewatson.com/books and order your copy today. This book will become a favorite in your fathering toolbox and will give you the answers you've been looking for. That's drmichellewatson.com/books. Now, back to the Dad Whisperer podcast.
Hey dads, welcome back. We are talking today about how you as a dad can recover I'm giving you steps, action steps, so you can recover from daughter wounds. That's my Dadvice for you today. So just talked in depth about honestly facing the hurt. HEAL, that's the H. Now I'm going to give you the E. The E is express the pain, verbally and emotionally. That's what I'm talking about, so that you release what you're holding inside in a non-destructive, non-explosive way. Say that right after me now. Non-destructive, non-explosive way. So like all of us, myself included, we tend to want to let the person that's hurt us know how much they've hurt us by increasing our intensity that matches the intensity of the hurt. Recently, I happened to be privy to a grandparent blasting a grandson. Okay, it was a grandmother blasting a grandson, screaming about the disrespect. Now, I've known that happens in reverse. It could be a grandfather that's maybe raised. This is a situation where grandparents are raising a grandson. I know that's a lot of your story, where you as grandparents are stepping into a parent role when you're tired and exhausted and fatigued. And you're saying, I wasn't made for this, but I love this child, so I'm going to step up. And I know that's hard. Or maybe some of you are a step parent, you're grafted in. So it's not the same as the dad. And maybe your daughter or your son is saying, you're not my parent. You don't have a right to tell me what to do. And then you want to come back with saying, it's my home, and you're matching that intensity. But like we know in Proverbs 15:1, it says a soft answer turns away anger. So it's up to you, Dad, to lead the way in bringing the intensity down. So this whole idea of expressing the pain means if you, quote, pop the zit, I know it's kind of gross, but really that's what we're talking about, because the wound, right? When we have a wound, there's an infection there, physically or emotionally. So a way to get it out is to do it at some other time, in some other place, in some other way, so that when your daughter comes back again for round 2, you're not ready to blow because you've already expressed, you've already gotten out the intensity of the hurt. That's why it's so key to have another dad, another man, or your wife, or a counselor. I mean, there's so many online therapists now. I'm doing lots of telehealth now, where even if you don't know anyone in your city, you can find someone that could do remote therapy to help you get validated, get clarity, and get the emotion out so she doesn't get it. Okay, so here is your action step for the E, express the pain. So even if writing isn't your favorite activity, begin giving a voice to what's going on inside emotionally. So I want to give you a challenge, Dad, to begin to increase your skill set to write. If you're more of a bullet point in your phone kind of guy, great. I've had lots of dads, lots of men, I should say, not just fathers. Some of them are younger, get out their phone in a counseling session and they will type some notes into their phone rather than pen and paper anymore. I'm old fashioned. I love to journal with a pen in hand. But dad, write out what it is that you're feeling in each of these areas: happy, sad, angry, scared, confused. Dad, those are 5 primary emotions. So if you're getting out the pain, what about this makes me happy? Probably nothing. What about it makes me sad? What about it makes me angry? What about it makes me scared for her or our relationship? What about it makes me confused? Write out, bullet point, one thing under each of those emotions. I guarantee that if you can get out and express the pain, you will be more grounded when your daughter comes to you. Okay, now let's move on to the A of heal. Okay, number 1, H, honestly face the hurt. E, express the pain. A, allow another to walk with you. Now, this is a lot of times the hard one for all of us, but especially for men, because you don't want to ever let them see you sweat. Isn't that what you've heard as men? Don't ever let them see you cry. Don't ever let them see you hurt. So you probably know more stories than I do in sports where you got knocked down, you got hurt, stuff went sideways, but you could not show emotion. So you bit your tongue, you bit your lip so that you would hold the emotion in. You are going to be a better dad to your daughter if she can see your emotion on your face that's not just anger. If she memorizes the lines in your face, the furrowed brow, and that's the encoded look she has of you when you're angry with her, and that's the primary emotion she knows, I can guarantee that the rest of that sentence is you will have a compromised relationship with your daughter. And I know you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't want a better relationship with her. So dad, a way that you can grow is to A, allow another to walk with you. Because if you want to bond more with your daughter interpersonally, you're going to grow by having an interpersonal interaction with another person. And maybe you feel more comfortable talking with a woman. So maybe that's your sister. Maybe that's your wife. Maybe it's a coworker, but let someone walk with you. I mean, I can tell you honestly, I have met incredible men across this country who are actively involved in men's groups. They will tell me how much they grow by seeing another man open up, get real. It's funny, I said get will. It's like a choice of the will to get real. There's a quote for you, because it is not natural. It does not come easy. You have to make a decision to open up. And that's one of the things that I have loved about the ABBA Project, this group that I have been led by God to lead for dads of daughters, where 12 guys a year come together and open up in real ways. And I've told them, I had no idea men talk so much and cried so much. Well, I know it's because they feel safe. They also have said to me, we don't have to compete with women. That's why, Michelle. So let me give you an action step, Dad, for this A, allowing another to walk with you. If you don't have someone to vent to outside of your immediate family, take the courageous step this week of finding someone you can trust. I encourage you to reach out. If it's too hard to be potentially rejected face-to-face, put it in a text or email. Hey, I really respect you as a dad, and you're a few years farther ahead than me. Hey, is there any way we could start meeting every other Friday for breakfast and start talking about how we can be more dialed in dads? Maybe you want to go through my book. Maybe you want to use a resource like that. Maybe you just want to talk about where you're blowing it and hold each other accountable to set new goals. But does that make sense? There is a key, is inviting someone else into your space. Take the initiative, do it today. I would encourage you, maybe, like I said, if you want to start going through either of my book, Let's Talk Conversation Starters for Dads and Daughters, is 60 Scripts with Your Daughter. But the other one that I first wrote is called Dad, Here's What I Really Need From You, a guide for connecting with your daughter's heart that opens up more of the world of women to you as men. So I wrote that book with lots of stories from dads and daughters in it that help you understand a daughter's world. So that might even be a book that you and another dad could go through if you don't know where to start. Because that's really what I'm all about, not just tooting my own horn. Here, buy my books. It's to be a practical resource for you as a dad to dial into your daughter's heart space. Okay, H of heal, so that you as a dad can heal and recover from daughter wounds. H, honestly face the hurt. E, express the pain verbally and emotionally. A, Allow another to walk with you. And the last one is L. Let go of the pain. Let go of the pain. Now, we both know that's easier said than done. And I mentioned forgiveness a little bit earlier. I ended up actually writing my doctoral dissertation on self-forgiveness. And it was in the context of eating disorder recovery. But what that means is I bathed in the research on this concept of forgiveness. And one of my favorite words for forgiveness was let go. Let go of the pain. And I truly believe, this is just my position, my belief, is that a lot of times why forgiveness doesn't hold, like we say, I forgive you, a choice of our will, but it doesn't hold, is because we haven't done these first 3 steps. We haven't honestly faced the hurt. We haven't expressed the pain. We're saying it, I'm not going to talk about the pain. I'm not going to feel the pain. I'm just going to go to forgiveness. It doesn't work, doesn't hold. And then allowing another to walk with you means somebody else is bearing witness to the hurt that I've gone through. And I believe we're created by God for relationship that way, to be able to say, James 5:16 says, confess your sin one to another so you may be healed. I also, this again is my belief, is that it's even sin done to us, hurt done to us, that confession, that speaking out openly with our mouth to another is what helps bring healing. So that's what this last one is all about, is how do you actually forgive? How do you let go? Well, you have to know what it is you're letting go of. Again, that's why I don't think forgiveness always holds, because we haven't really admitted what the hurt has been about. So Dad, if this last one bears witness with your heart, with your spirit, I want to encourage you to maybe type the words into your search engine, stages of female development. And you might go, that's a weird action step for forgiveness. Okay, just hang in there with me for a minute. Because if you do some research on what normal life is like for your daughter at the age she's at, especially if she's in her teen years, you may discover that some of what you're taking personal and wanting her to absolutely shut down is part of normal development. Again, in teenage years, it's a lot of separating and individuating like she did when she was 2 and said, no, mine, now. Those one-word jabs. Not that that means you're going to condone the behavior, but maybe you won't take it as personal. So that might be one practical way that you could take a step toward letting go of the daughter wounds that you have. Another idea would be to write a letter to your daughter. You may not necessarily give it to her, but you write, like, Dear Amy, I just need you to know. I mentioned the words earlier, happy, sad, angry, scared, confused, saying, here's where I'm so delighted in you. Here's what I love about you. Here's what I'm happy about when I think back to when you were 5. But here's where I'm sad right now, or scared, or confused, or angry. And you're letting her know the specific ways that you're concerned for her right now, or that she's hurt you. Read that to another dad. Again, see, when HEAL all go together, they work together and really create, I believe, a powerful way for you to recover from daughter wounds. These steps of understanding the hurt, Dad, I want you to hear me say this. They are vital to setting the foundation for release so that you can forgive, so that you can be free. Maybe even in writing things out or talking them out, you will have maybe God through the Holy Spirit reveal a place that you actually hurt her prior to her lashing out, that you forgot about. But by slowing down, going in, digging deeper, talking it out, you'll have an awareness of, oh my goodness, I forgot that I yelled at her on the way out the door yesterday. And now today it came out with disrespect over here. My disrespect of her needs allowed her to lash at me. So imagine the power then, Dad, if you went to your daughter and said, I want to start here by making amends with you, because you've already let go of the pain. You've said, God, here it is. I hand it off to you. Vengeance is yours, saith the Lord, like it's not mine. I've already let go and forgiven you, but I want to now talk out and realize I want to start first. I realize I've hurt you first. Will you please forgive me? Or let me know first how I hurt you with that comment, and then ask forgiveness, followed with you then being able to say back to her, I forgive you for the disrespect or the comment or the disrespect, through your behavior where you didn't follow through on what you said you would do or whatever. So I trust, Dad, that this has been a helpful conversation today, where all throughout I've given you your go steps with HEAL. So let me just repeat them one more time. You might want to say them with me. H, honestly face the hurt. E, express the pain. A, allow another to walk with you. And L, let go of the pain, which is forgiveness. Well, Dad, as always, I love the time we get to spend together. I wish I could see you face to face, but I see you, if you will, in my heart. So this is another episode. I'm Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield, the Dad Whisperer, signing off and wishing you and your daughter a day where you get closer by intentionally and consistently investing in pursuing her heart. Go Dads.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield. To find out how you can invite Dr. Michelle for your next event, go to drmichellewatson.com and click on the speaking tab. That's drmichellewatson.com. Dr. Michelle loves bringing practical insights she gleaned over the past few decades to audiences of teenagers, young adults, men's groups, or women's forums. Once again, go to drmichellewatson.com. That's drmichellewatson.com for more information on the books, resources, and blogs that she has available. Remember, you can listen to the Dad Whisperer podcast on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. And we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe and leave us a review. Thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you again on the next edition of the Dad Whisperer podcast with Dr. Michelle Watson Canfield.